Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first edition of the Horror Talk for the year 2022. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm your host, Travis Bruce, and we got a great show lineup for you today. And by the way, Happy New Year to my co host, filmmaker, actor, horror connoisseur, Adam Freeman. Adam,
Oh,
welcome back, man.
hello, hello. It's been a minute. I'm so excited to be back.
It has been a minute. So,
Yeah.
Adam, I'm going to jump right on in. We've probably the last time we talked, we've seen a lot of horror things. But most recently, what is like one big budget horror movie, and what's one indie horror movie, and what's one horror series that you've watched that you think you want to talk about and you think people should watch?
So as far as the series goes, I had watched it prior to watching it just recently, but I went back and I watched it and I missed a lot of stuff in it. But Ash versus the Evil Dead does not
Oh,
get talked
great.
about enough. And also, they're coming out with a new Evil Dead film. So, super excited. But I just really liked how they did it. I liked how they went back and they brought back some of the characters from the old school. But as far as films goes, I have recently watched the new I Know What You Did Last Summer. It sucked. I
It's
hated it.
horrible.
It's it's so hard. I watched yesterday the Toxic Avenger, the new one. And I have to say that it's not my cup of tea. I've worked with trauma before, and I do like what they do. I think it's a really specific style of how they create and get that hype on the set. You just gotta be really wild when they do it. Which I'm more of a well reserved type of person. I don't really do a lot of comedy, so it was really interesting being on that set, but it was really fun because I did Curse the Weird Ear. That's their new film that they put out, Trauma. But I really liked the new Toxic Avenger, even though it's not really my cup of tea. It was just really over the top, and it didn't hold back. So I would have to give it to that one as far as what I like. One that I dislike was I Know What You Did Last Summer. That was just horrible, horrible. So
And I agree with you. I'm not a huge Toxic Avenger fan, but I watched the Toxic Crusader cartoons when I was a kid, and that's really what's got me into trauma. And 'cause I didn't even know it was a movie. But those movies are like the Toxic Avenger movies are not great movies. They're over the top, they're crazy, they're shock
yeah.
value movies.
And
So,
it's
and I've heard
really
a
hard to create that atmosphere
yeah,
when you're not how you meet people and they're just over the top. And I'm over the top at times, but you've really got to elevate your level, your one-liners and who you are to really pull off a trauma film, in my
I
opinion.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree. But I've seen like in the the indie horror Facebook groups, filmmakers saying, "Oh my God, this movie is a piece of shit. This movie is a piece of shit." But I'm like, what did you expect it to be? I mean, like, would you expect it to be some kind of Oscar? Like those movies, I watched all four of them, and well, five, including the new one. Those are not great movies, but they are
Yeah.
over the top crazy. But they're also borderline. They're not borderline. They're offensive. So I don't think in the year when this movie was made, which was 2023, yes, you can't go that offensive in 2023 in a movie because you would offend a
Yeah.
lot of people. And those movies were not. Trauma was all about not offending. It was all about offending people to the
Yeah.
extreme back in the day, and
Yeah.
you just can't do that.
Yeah. And I think that, there's a lot of people, we had that generation. It's like, oh, let's don't offend. And before, I grew up in the 90s where it was like, if your feelings are hurt, so what, you live. That's the way I was taught, raised growing up. Then we have different generations of people who, is totally different now. And with that comes change in film, you know. There was a really big feminism push there for a while. Um, I think that it's really lightened up, in my opinion. I'm not saying I'm against it or for. I'm just saying that I feel like
Yeah,
it's lightened up because, like, if you remember, like Black Christmas, the third Black Christmas, it was
yeah,
just so pushed in that film. Um, and there are other films that are like that. But then there are some films that do it really subtle. Like personally, like I like the new Barbie film, like where it was you had like a positive for both sexes and not just one. And it was you know, like that to me, like that was a good dose of politics in a film, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, so you know, as the generations go, things change, and I do think that you know, a lot of the movies that are independent that come out that are some of them absolutely are atrocious, but you look back in the 80s, you look back in the 70s, and really it was more prevalent in the 80s because people could just pick up that video camera, the VHS shot on video era. And I think people have kind of like taken that to the next level. You're no longer shooting on video, like you're shooting on um, like high end cameras, bringing together a story that's not necessarily a good story. I mean, it could have its moments, but you don't elevate it at any point. You're just taking it and you're, you know, I think that there's throwbacks which are great, but if you're going to do a throwback, you need to do something that's like, you know, like what I did in my film. Like I remade Screen Dream from 1989, and that film was very pink in the original, and the original shot on video. There's a lot of certain types of props in that movie with certain types of special effects makeup. And what you do if you want to take something in a way that's more like shot on video, more B independent film, you take that, your all of like, you know, your ingredients to the film and you elevate it. You make something new, but you take what you loved about the original and you push it to be something better. And I think that is what filmmakers are missing today because when you look at some of these films, these people aren't making money because the distributors are not paying them. It's because nobody's watching them. Nobody's
yeah,
buying them. I mean, you can go on Amazon right now and see how many people purchased a movie. Um, it'll say 1,000 purchased like last month, or you know, 2,000 purchased within the last week, or whatever. And if you are sitting at a zero, nobody's buying it because people don't really want to see that. And I think that there's a style people do want to see, and I think there's a style people don't want to see. And I think that's kind of where people need to figure that out a little bit. And I think, you know, for me, like I've sat, thought about it. I've done a whole years and a half worth of research, going back to the very first horror film. Going through, I watched the silent films, getting into the talkies, getting into like some of the noir films, getting into like Hitchcock, the classics, and then getting into the slasher with Black Christmas, Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then you notice that like the cleverness when you get to that point, because right after Texas Chainsaw happened, you had the slasher boom era, right? And everybody was trying to make blood, guts, and gore, right? But Texas Chainsaw wasn't gory. It was just really good filmmaking because the filmmakers thinking about how to trick the audience into making it bloodier in their mind. There's that's a craft, and that's what some filmmakers I think are lacking. That they need to take their elements, go back, watch, and find out what they love, and create something better, and use your inspirations to do better. So
and that jumps into so I want to tell you like the one of the most east or recent indie horror movies I watched, and it's called Pretty Girl Kills. Is directed by Felicia Rivers, who her most famous indie horror movie is called Tiffany Doll, which I gave it a horrible review. but it's an entertaining movie. But Pretty Girl Kills, the concept of this movie, so it's about four black women who are like I don't want to call them succubus, but they're like they drain young pretty women of their youth and it keeps them alive for
Yeah.
60, 50 years looking the same. And I was like, well, that's a great fucking that's a great original idea. Not original, but it's a great idea, especially to see four black women characters doing it. And but so it's a great idea, but it just didn't go. And the acting was great, the cinematography was great, but the story didn't go anywhere. And I
Yeah.
was like, boy, it's missing. There's something. This is a great idea. This is a great concept, but it just didn't go anywhere.
And I can tell you what that is right there with people. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I going from like my first film that I directed into the second film that I directed, and now looking at a third. From the first film, I just wrote the script. It was what I wanted. It was personal to me. Nobody could tell me otherwise. I wanted it to be exactly the way that I foresaw it. Now, going into a remake where it's not so personal and you're taking another work, I collaborated with Ben Johnson. And Ben Johnson works with trauma. And I do, I did a lot of the aesthetics and things like that. So he knew what I wanted as far as like, I tried to give a lot of the drama and a lot of the scary parts, and he would elevate the comedy for me. So like I think that is how a lot of people, there's so many people online. I had one guy the other day talking to me. He was like, I'm a writer. I've written like all these books. And he was like, I just can't find somebody who wants to work with me or will give me that option. And if they do, and I'm not going to say the person's name, but they were like, they're like, I've been propositioned. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to entertainment. Like that's just how it is. And it happens all the time. I know you know that. I know that. A lot of other people don't realize that. And I think there's a lot of people with a lot of talent that are looking for that door to open. And you could easily write a script and invite creativity from other people. If you're making a movie with only your creativity, only your vision, there's a problem. You're on a power trip or you don't work well with others. You need to open up the door for even more creativity to come into your film, which is going to make it better because now you have so many visionaries coming in to help you and to give input and to help bring your vision to life. And that is where the gold strikes. That's where you start getting people like, oh, we could do this in this scene that you have written. We could like elevate the comedy, elevate the horror elements. We could, you know, put something in the scene to make it, add a little bit to it. And that's why I've always said on anything that I do, like I am just so open to ideas that I'm like, like tell me what you want, tell me what you want to do. Let's film it this way, that way. And I think that that is something that independent filmmakers need to do if you want to be successful. Period. There's no other way around it. One line of creativity is not going to take you far. Multiple lines of creativity come from multiple people are going to take you way further, not one line.
I agree. Now, Adam, I have a question. When you hear the title "Pretty Girl Kills," what is pretty to you? I mean, what is pretty average looking? Is pretty? I mean, pretty
Pretty
is something. Mhm.
to me, I guess I have a different view of it because again, I grew up in the 90s. We had erotic thrillers back then. We had Roger Corman, New Horizons. Um we had like real like B movie action stars. Like I'm talking like real stars. Something that like anybody really after 2000 that was born after 2000 you really missed out. You really missed out. Like
Yeah.
we had people that we followed, that we watched, and to me, pretty means that a lot of like when I think of like if there's gonna be a beautiful woman in a movie, I'm thinking like The Naked Gun with Anna Nicole Smith, The Mask with Cameron Diaz, or Slumber Party Massacre films. Like they had a lot of Playboy models. I think a lot of the B movie stars. I think one that comes to mind, Madison Stone from Evil Tunes. I think she's
Yes.
absolutely stunning, but
Yes.
she's also a pornographic actress. So I think the line was very blurred back then between adult entertainment and regular entertainment, and they were colliding on a level. Like there was people in Hollywood dating adult film stars and vice versa, and rock and roll stars and all that. So I'm biased as to what I think is a pretty girl, because when I think that, I immediately think, and I'm just going to show you this whole poster. You have beautiful women, no tattoos, no colored hair. That's bias, and I know a lot of people will be mad about that, but it's the truth. Like that's what first comes to mind.
And that's the same thing with me. Like I was born in the '80s, but I pretty much grew up in the '90s. I was, and um, pretty to me, I know the lines are blurred right now in recent culture. What's pretty? Everybody's pretty. Everybody's beautiful.
Yeah,
Which,
everybody
yeah,
is.
everybody is in their own
But
way. But I'm
there's
talking
a
about
there's a marketable person compared
yes,
to something that's someone else who's not marketable in entertainment.
yes, yes. So if I so my idea of a pretty woman for me is when I'm walking down the street and I do a double take. Like if I have
Yeah,
to look at you more than once, that's a pretty woman. I could be walking in the street with my woman and I notice a pretty woman. Not to be like offensive, but I can notice a pretty woman. If I don't
yeah,
notice you and do, whoa, that woman is beautiful. That one's pretty in my mind. I'm not saying you're ugly. It's just like you're not noticeable.
yep,
And I think the average person, man, woman, race, whatever, is just average, not noticeable. You know what I mean? I think
yeah,
that pretty and beautiful is something. It's only 10% marketable, like in entertainment. It's only about 10% of the country or maybe the world that fit into that category. So
yeah,
like you talk about Anna Nicole Smith, I mean Pamela Anderson, Cameron Diaz, Carmen Electra. When I was growing up, Naomi Campbell. Those were beautiful women. Those were
yeah.
models. Those
And I
were
have to say, I worked for a woman who was on Baywatch before, and she was also in some of Jim Wynorski's films. Gail Thackeray. She also worked at Playboy, Hustler, Mayfair, all the adult magazines. She modeled for them. She also posed models for them. And when I met her in person, I'm a gay man. I could not speak. I was my I was just like, and I was like, because I went to this place to go meet her, and I wound up working for her, and she had offered me a job after that to keep working for her. But I was so like, I never in my life have I ever looked at a woman and been like, I can look at them and say, oh, they're pretty, they're beautiful. She was absolutely breathtaking on every level. And I couldn't speak. And I wound up, working for her, which very thankful for that opportunity. But like that to me is what we're missing. Like you're missing like a lot of that in film today. And I know that she worked in a lot of films, but you never really see that anymore. It's like almost like a bad word, like a slap on the hand, I would say, when you bring that up. Or if you even like try to say like why. like people down that idea that there are women out there who are just strikingly stunning, and they either do OnlyFans and they're making their money one way, or they don't do anything at all. But a lot of the people who do work and do want to strive for this industry, they're not marketing their self, I feel like, the correct way.
Well, funny that you bring up. I interviewed a super attractive actress, Indian actress, recently, and
Yeah.
I asked her the question. I asked her. I said, "Do you feel like by being super attractive in indie horror, does that hold you back from getting roles?" And she said, "Yes." And I was shocked to hear that because, and she was like, I feel like the filmmakers are intimidated by me because
You
they
have
feel like
assholes for filmmakers
they
too.
yeah, they feel like they can't get me. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
feel like I'm not obtainable to them. You know what I mean? Because we do know in indie film career, a lot of these filmmakers are creeps. A lot of them are, are fucking these actresses.
I
And
will. Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So like and she but and I was like, boy, that actually makes sense because like if you are a super hot actress, I'm pretty sure you probably I know there's certain women, Adam, that I'm intimidated by. Like there's certain women that I would never approach on the street. In my single days, I would never approach her on the street and be like, "Hey, ask them for the number," because I would be so intimidated because I would know that woman's going to say no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
just don't even try. You just don't even try.
One
And
thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, but I thought that was very interesting that that, yeah, there is some kind of gatekeeping even in when it comes to casting actresses in the indie horror community.
I mean, even casting men, it's almost non-existent to have, in my opinion, really attractive men in films. And I say that because, we do look at women a lot. Like, oh, I think women really get the main focus. They also get this whenever their death scene comes up on screen, it's always elaborate, where a man's is so quick. But look at like Bruce Campbell. He's a very attractive looking man, independent film. But when you look at other men also in independent film, you don't really have those ones who quite stick out. And I don't think it's just women. I think it's also men too. And I think, some people try to play it as the geek role, and then they try to get either the most stacked girl they can that's willing to show something. And it's like, you don't have, like, even if you have nudity in a film, like, and this needs to be said because nudity is not a bad thing. Like, I've been to nude camp before, and when you take your clothes off, I've done nudity in film before, but when you take your clothes off, it feels so natural. It's not like being at home naked. I will say that. We came into the world naked, and it is a natural thing. There's a naturalness about it. So it's not a bad thing. But when you only push for sex, when you only push for, you know, to show as much nudity as you possibly can, I don't see value in that. If something is like done stylistically, like I watched Carrie again recently. I watched the original Carrie, the only Carrie that matters, in my opinion. And you have that whole opening of the girls, the girls' shower room in the gym. It's like that was done so stylishly though, and so good. And the camera panning when it gets to Sissy Spacek in the shower through that like steam, that is how you need to use not only your actress and your cameraman and the talent, but that is how you really do nudity well and tastefully in film. It was, a girl has her period for the first time. Obviously, there's going to be nudity. And you see all the girls run around, they're throwing tampons at her. And the horror of that, because I think some people be like, oh, these girls are in high school. This is so gross. Like, why are we watching this? It's like, because that's like the most like personal time in your life, I feel like, as a teenager when you really become a woman or when you're becoming a man. And it's like, that would be horrible for someone. And I think that that's how they really related that to a lot of women was to show it that way. So, people are like, well, they showed it because for male audiences. And it's like, no, I really feel like they did that scene to really push that for women to kind of understand because women can be mean to each other and they can be catty as
100%.
fuck. We know that.
Yeah.
But when you see, and I get back full circle that when you do it in a right way and you have the right actresses and you're not just pushing to have tits, but you're pushing for something, then it works better that way. And that is
I agree.
something that a lot of people are missing right now.
And that's going to jump into like the TV series that I've binge watched, which is Spartacus, House of Usher. I never watched any other Spartacus shows, but I just recently got Stars because they were running a Black Friday deal for $6 for the whole entire year. I was like, fuck it,
Yeah,
let me do this. And I watched that show, and it is absolutely a beautiful show. I'm probably going to go back and watch the other Spartacus. It's such a
yeah,
beautiful show, everything from the language to the visual and the practical effect gore is it's on a horror movie level. I mean, it's on a horror series level
yeah,
with the gore. But the sex scenes, and I was talking to you in the preview, the sex scenes and the nudity is on. I mean, it's made. It looks beautiful. It adds
yeah,
into the story. They're the old '80s sex scenes where they go for about 5 minutes long,
yeah,
and there's a lot of nipple sucking and kissing. It's very passionate and intimate and and
yeah.
and that's gone now in horror movies and movies in
It really
general. It's
is.
now it's literally when I watch it, especially a horror movie. It's a woman on all fours and a guy smashing in doggy style for like 2 seconds, and that's it.
Yeah. I think with that, it's also, depending on what company makes it, because there are some companies out there, and like I have been told whenever I've looked for shopped around for my first film, they were livid that there was no nudity in my first film. There was no sex. They wanted sex. They wanted nudity. They wanted language. And the language part, and I had a really good conversation. I've told a lot of people about this conversation. I was talking to, I want to say it was Aaron Brown, aka formerly known as Misty Mundy, who I worked with on Scream Dream. She goes by Aaron Brown now. That is her name that she goes by. But we were talking about scripts, and you see there's something that I look out for, and it's a lot of language in films. And the reason I do is it tells me a lot about the filmmaker who wrote this and who is making this. And it's not always, but oftentimes when somebody overuses the word fuck in a movie, right? You realize that that's lazy writing.
Yeah.
It's just lazy. Like, you don't have to say that. I don't want to watch a movie where it's like they're saying F, 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 F every 30 seconds, not because it's to me, it's just like I'm watching a lazy written film. Sorry, Rob Zombie. But honestly, like,
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
like
Yeah.
if you can't make the dialogue any stronger, any better, more immersive than the word fuck, then it's lazy writing. And that also goes into what you're talking about with the nudity and the sex scenes in those films. When you look at One of the ones I really like, I love the movie Cheerleader Camp. I don't know if you've ever watched that one from the 80s.
I
I
have not.
love that movie. And it just has, it's so campy. It's so campy. And it's like, I think it also, like, I feel like a lot of people really connected back then in the 80s with like cheerleader camp, band camp, drama club camp, um, a gang of friends to go out and hang out with, like the Lost Boys. Like, you don't really see a lot of people out and about like that anymore. And it's like we're coming into a new age where it's like, you know, everything's changed. And I think that even sexuality and nudity has changed, and the way that we view it. Used to, you had the magazines, you had the movies, you had adult stars that were like, whoa, like this is a star. But really, and I have to say this too, is those adult film stars back in the 80s and 70s and all that, there was really only a handful of men. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, like you had like Randy West, Randy Spears, Ron Jeremy, Joey Silvera, and that's really all the ones that I can think of that were the big stars, like the men of the films, right? So you only have like a handful of men. Every woman is just sleeping with them. They're not really going out of their way to like be dangerous with. I'm not saying, nothing happened to some stars, but I'm just saying like it was more safe that way because everybody's being tested. So now you have women today who like get on OnlyFans. You have men too that get on OnlyFans, and they're sleeping with 1,000 men a day. There was nobody doing that back in the day. And you're not a star. You're disgusting, in my opinion. Not downing anybody, but that's like disturbing to me. So I think you really have to look at everything that goes on with today's time and in today's society of why we're not making films like this anymore. Because any girl or any guy who is like gorgeous or, a special niche, a special kink can get on OnlyFans and make content. And at that point, if you're a serious actor, nobody's going to hire you really in this industry. And if they do, it's like one in like a million. That's not me making the rules. That's just how it works. People are going to look at you and say no. Why? And I just watched an interview. Oh my gosh, what was her name? She was a beautiful African American adult film star that was on Soul Train. Um,
Hmm.
the TV show. You remember that Soul Train?
Yeah.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
So they took her. They said that she could no longer be on it because they didn't realize the guy who was producing it did not recognize that she was one of the most famous adult film stars out there. And it's like we can't have. And this is what they told her. I'm just going by the interview. This is not me. They said we can't have someone who portrays and has the face of a sexualized person. People sexualize you. And I think that that's what is broken here, that people are trying to break that stigma. But you got to realize it's like you would not go on, like, there's a guy, um, God, what's his name? He's on a kids' TV show. He's a freak in real life. And he makes this YouTube content, but he has like this big show. Years ago, though, he made a video of himself defecating on another person, and it was viral. But he makes children's content. You see why you can't have that.
100%. I personally understand why.
But people who watch this aren't going to have that
No,
full
because
thinking. Yeah.
if I was making an indie horror movie right now, I would not. If I wanted to have a woman on an actress to be on in my movie to do a news scene or whatever or be sexy. I would not want someone to be able to Google them and find a naked picture of them or thousands of naked pictures of them.
Oh,
I
I
want
agree.
I want that. It's like the mystique of Holly Berry, right? Holly Berry
Yeah,
was an okay actress. She was not a great actress. So let's not lie and say that. But she was
yeah.
beautiful. But she was beautiful. And most of the mystique was we never got to see every man visualize about seeing her naked. And then once we saw her naked in two movies, Swordfish and that horrible, disgraceful sex scene with Billy Bob Thornton and Monsters Ball, that was it. It was dead. Her career was dead at that point because the mystique was gone. So, like, I would want to have, if I was going to hire an actress in my movie to be the lead, I would want her to have that mystique, which means the average Joe cannot go on and Google her and find a billion naked pictures of her. I would want that actress to keep going and making movies for me and that mystique going. If she does nudity way down the road and when she gets into Hollywood, it's perfectly fine. But Hollywood's not going to hire you if you do nudity in an indie
I think
realm.
they would. I
They will.
think that it's not necessarily the nudity. I think it's the content. Like they look at films like if there's a film out there that goes all out to be good and it is good. Like let's look at,
I meant porn. I meant porn
well,
wise. I mean, Hollywood's not going to hire you if you're doing
they're
outrageous
not
stuff.
going to hire you to porn. I mean, Tracy Lords, the only reason that girl really went on to be what she is in Hollywood is because John Waters gave her a second chance when she was, and this is how to be smart about it. And I don't think a lot of people realize this because she went from being the biggest porn star, the biggest adult film star of all time, to going to mainstream. But what people don't understand was she was given a license that said she was of age by the government. She didn't fake it. She didn't just get it fake. She went to the DMV and they gave it to her. But second to that, where she was underage making these movies, by the time that it was known, all those movies could no longer be watched because now it's cheese pizza, like
Hmm.
it's underage sex. So all those movies are now gone and cannot be seen. All of her scenes have been ripped out of movies. So it was like a fresh start. But she was a star. So if you live in that time, like like in the 80s and you saw the movies, you knew what she was capable of. That kind of was in like the reverse and like you were talking about where it's like the mystique was like, oh, we know. But this generation does not know. They will never know. And it's like now all of her adult films are gone. They cannot be sold. They cannot be given. So that was kind of a genius thing to do was like, hey, like if I'm not saying it was intentional, but if it was, I'm just saying you gave yourself a name. People know who you are. All of your films are now gone, and now you can start your real career. And I'm not saying go out there and do that, but I'm just saying that's what happened to her. And John Waters gave her a second chance. And, she went on to make the movie like, what was it, Crybaby with Johnny
Right, baby.
Depp. And
Yep.
and
Hmm.
that's how, a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to go out to Hollywood and do this, and this. I can guarantee you they're going to look at that. They're going to look at your past and they're going to be like, what have you done? Because we have a reputation to uphold. You see these massive stars, this scandal that they go through. Your managers don't want to deal with that bullshit. They don't want
Yep.
to deal with that. The people who represent you don't want to deal with that. And
I mean,
that is why you really have to think about it before you do it because once it's out there for life and people know. And that's
I
why
mean,
I say
Lawrence.
film is forever, you know?
I mean, Lawrence Fishburne's daughter did porno, and it almost killed his fucking career. His
Yeah.
daughter did a couple pornos, and it almost killed his career. Wasn't even him. Like, so, like. yeah, and still a stigma when it comes to sex work and porn in Hollywood. There,
Yeah.
it is, and I think it always will be. But I think in the average home, more people will consume porn and sex OnlyFans than ever because
Oh god.
smartphones and internet.
It's
Um,
all over my Facebook. Do you know I was
yeah,
scrolling the other day? Do you know how many like dicks I saw in my feed the other day? They had this new thing that guys are doing where they're like, "Oh, look at my iPad," and they like turn their iPad and you can like see the reflection of their dick in their iPad, or they've got a mirror, a glass behind them on a painting, and the glass is reflecting what they're doing on the couch, but you can only see their face. And I'm like, this is really allowed on here. Like, what if a child sees this? Like, y'all have taken over like X. We don't need to take over everything here. We have to have some type of clean social media, just a little bit. But
so I think
you know, I'm
I got to have one last question for you because in your new movie, you're having a lot of male nudity, frontal nudity. I've noticed, and I was watching season 2 of Euphoria. I was talking about House of Asher, Spartacus, and a lot of indie horror movies. There's a lot more dicks being shown. I mean, like there's a lot of dongs being shown in movies and TV series.
yeah.
And it's also been, I think the new thing is too, I mean, I've seen even the Human Hibachi Part 3. There's a lot of dick kills. There's a lot of
Yeah.
House of Usher. There's a fucking great dick kill.
I was
What
just
is
in a
going on with
movie
that?
that showed like I want to say like probably 20, 30 guys' dicks get like ripped off.
Yeah, what's going on with that? And I was going to ask you too, is as a filmmaker, when you're casting men for a dick scene, because I'm watching Spartacus, House of Asher, and these guys' fucking dicks are ginormous. I mean, listen, I'm not saying I'm not, but these motherfuckers are like dicks are huge. I'm like, are they casting these actors based on their dick size?
I think what happens is like especially with like stuff like sets and stuff that I've been on. Um I remember I had a nude scene that I did and I was fully frontal and I was in it with another person, but it was like there was lots of fog, and I really thought that they would not be able to see much because the fog was so thick that it really came up around like my upper leg, and I was really on my like hands. And what I was doing was completely glitterized. Like I have, they basically we poured like a whole bottle of lubricant on top of me and poured glitter, patted it, and hairsprayed it. So I was like, nobody, like, it's going to be so reflective in the camera, you're not going to see as much. Well, as soon as it was filmed, because I had to dance, I had to like do all this crazy stuff, this hair flip thing. I had this like giant wig and this horn coming out. We were in hell and we're trying to show hell rocking out. And it was a really cool fucking scene. But they were like, wow, like you had some balls not to even get semi hard on camera. And I was like, I honestly just thought that nobody would really see it like that much. So it's like, I didn't think about it. And honestly, I don't even think about it. Like, but I remember we did a nude scene with another person on set that was a male. And he did get hard for that scene slightly. I remember it was not like I'm looking at it, but it's like it's there. So it's like I remember that it was like it was not like up inside you. You know what I'm saying? Like some people, it was there and it was very shown. But I think that people have to um depending on what they're comfortable with. Some people want to be semi hard, some people don't want to be shown flaccid at all. I remember my very first time I was ever in front of a camera on a film set at all, ever. Very, very, very first time. My and it was I was a lead role and I had to do a sex scene for a film. and it was I don't know why they did it on day one. I guess just to break the ice and get it out of the way, you know. But I remember he was like, I don't have cock socks. I forgot to get them. If you're not okay with it, then we don't have to worry about it. Like, or we can do it the scene a different time. And I was like, well, I don't mind. And the other person was like, I don't mind either. And he was like, okay. Because what it was is we were really close together. And like we was touching. Like it was like it was there. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just there.
Mhm.
And I had to like lean over to um pretend like I'm trying to start something back up, and then he pushes me away, right? Well, when I did that, I guess he forgot his moment and it didn't push away, and it's just right there in my face. And I was like, have mercy, you know? So it's not as erotic as people think it is. The erotic scenes are never as erotic as people think they are. There's a lot of directing, and that again, it goes with the skill of the director. And I think that you have a lot of people going back to what you were asking earlier, you have a lot of people who want to get into this industry, and that's the one thing that they're like, oh, we're gonna put this in there, but then it comes time to do that, and then they're like, well, I'm just gonna get this over with. Let's just do this, and this. Okay, that's it. You know, they get a little nervous about it, and honestly, it needs to be a close set, and it needs to not have everyone in there. You need like, you know, if you have someone who's having to apply makeup constantly to them, they have to be in there. If it's a special effects artist, they need to be in there. Camera needs to be in there. The person that's doing that, audio has to be in there. Director has to be in there, and your co-star. But you don't have all the other stars in there. And then some people just won't care. Some people be like, I don't care, you know, and they'll just have it all out, you know,
Mhm.
and that's fun. And it's like I think it just really goes like I went to a nudist camp recently, and it was just like it was really fun. Like it was just so natural. Like nobody, I don't know. It was I didn't even feel like I was naked in it. I really felt like I had clothes on, but I didn't. It was just natural. So I think like once you get in there and you kind of pull off the robe, it just feels a little bit better. But you have to be careful with who you work with. There are creeps in this industry. And you know, I've had like I've worked with one creep before, and I will never work with that person again. But I've worked with a lot of really professional people. I remember filming Savage Vengeance, and I had to be nude in public, and there was a ferry going back and forth by the river where we were at. But with all these people that was watching, but it was an artistic community, and I was not comfortable being nude in front of a female. So that night, I asked her, I was like, can we just keep eye contact? That way I'm more comfortable. And she's like, 100%. So the whole time we did it, we kept eye contact. And that way it never felt like I was being looked at by her, and it was like I felt great and I was really good about it. And I think that that's something that you have to do. You don't just get to the moment and be like, okay, we're all gonna do this, and everybody's on edge, and then it's like you do it because it's gonna turn out like like less than like what you said films are today. There's not as much. You gotta find someone who's comfortable. And honestly, like if it's Playboy, hell, those magazines sell like crazy. Bring a Playboy model in, you know. And if it is, there are some people who do just photos, like non-sexually explicit. They do just nude photography and nude models and things like that. You can hire them. Like hell, you can get on like what's that model site that they used to have? Um, I had Model Mayhem, and they would tell if they did film or not, if they would do nudity or not, if they did adult or not. And a lot of girls and men as well would just do nude photography, but nothing sexually explicit. So they would be comfortable being in a film, and you could go hire them straight from there. And I think what's really happened as far as independent goes is that we're stuck in this circle of people. It's like a cabal of people. And it's like the same people get hired for everything, absolutely everything. And I'm not saying anything bad about that. But what makes your film special? What makes that role special? If you could find someone fresh, or even if you find someone like I did, I got Erin Brown, and Erin still, like, to me, Erin looks young, and she's absolutely stunning, in my opinion. But second to that is like a lot of people didn't notice, like, her hair had gone white. And she's like, I thought her hair was dyed. I was like, I thought your hair was just dyed blonde. She's like, no, my hair actually changed colors. So it was like, well, it looks to me like you're still very, very young. Your hair's totally changed colors. It kind of gives you like this new identity in a way to see you as someone different, and you now have this different name. And I think that that's a positive. I think that's really cool because you can do whatever and have like this whole new image. And in my opinion, she's gorgeous. And I think about that with like other people. I think I really got lucky with Erin and her image being totally different from what she used to be, and still being very youthful looking and very talented and gorgeous and stunning. To bring her in, I think that there are a lot of people like that out there too. And I think that ultimately it just kind of, we needed to break the circle of hiring the same people over and over again. And I think that we need to start reaching out, asking our friends. I have a beautiful friend named Faith that I work with. And I asked her, I was like, would you do a nude scene in my new film? Because we talk, we're friends. She's like, yeah, I would do it. This girl is stunning. I'm talking gorgeous, like gorgeous, gorgeous, like dark, beautiful skin. Um, just like the most gorgeous, longest hair you can imagine. Very beautifully physique wise, and never done a film in our life. But I think that should be great. Go out and find people like that.
Yeah,
Go if you need someone. I think that there are men that I've run into that I'm like, hey, like I would put you in a film. Like I have one that I'm friends with, and I've asked him every time. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. I do it. But it's like we have to travel a lot, and I don't think he can do that with kids. So he's not been able to do it, unfortunately. But he's a very attractive guy as well. And I feel like everything's a blank canvas. And I stress this to people. Your film is a blank. This is for all the filmmakers out there, by the way. And this is the way I think. You're getting an insight to my mind. This is important. Your film is a blank canvas. Paint
yes,
it. Do your set design. Pick out your makeup. Pick out your hairstyles. Pick out your props. Pick out what's going into the scene. Pick out every fucking outfit. Do not even have someone show up and that's what they're wearing in the set. No, 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 no. That is a no go at all. And you put together what you visually want to see. Have a color scheme. Give people a color palette. If you're blonde and blue eyed and you're female, I'm probably going to give you like a pink or a purple. If you're more of a serious or seductive role, you're going to get red or black, you know? And that's how you do that, is that there's a color for every type of emotion. And I feel like you should play that into your theme a little bit. Because I've watched movies where I'm just like, oh my God, like they're horrible, you know?
I agree. I agree with you,
Mm.
and it's not even on the indie horror. It's just indie movies in general. Because cause I watch a lot of the black exploitation indie films. You know, the
Yeah.
from by Pimps Hoes ones, and a lot of the filmmakers use the same actors and actresses in every single one of their movies. It's like a revolving door. It's like a circle. and
Mhm.
there's no difference. And for someone who's a viewer, there's no difference. I'm like, oh, I know who that guy is, but I know that guy is literally he his acting isn't strong enough to play a different character in each movie. It's like his character is it just doesn't move. It's like
Yeah.
seems like everything is the fucking same, and most indie actors and actresses don't have that much range. It they have a specific one or two characters they can play, and that's what you're going to get in every movie.
And one of the things with that is like I've had people audition for me before, and it's like you've really like where I was trained on how to look at contracts, even though I don't really go by that a lot. I was trained on how to be safe in the industry. I was professionally trained by a Hollywood acting coach, and they actually would like have class to bring you there with all these other people and learn how to navigate this business. One of the most important things is when you go in to do an audition, and I would ask people, like, people be like, or people kind of knew they're like, can I like audition for your film? And I'm like, sure. And it shows me if I'm going to get a good actor or a bad actor. And what shows me is their audition. If you don't know the rules to an audition, if you go to a SAG film to audition, you better be following those rules because you're probably not going to get it. You wear a neutral colored shirt, mostly gray or black. You wear blue jeans. If you have long hair, you pull your hair up in a ponytail. You wear no jewelry. You don't wear any makeup. You don't wear anything flashy. You need to look like a freaking, and this is like one of those that you need to look like this, just a blank canvas without anything. And I say that in like the nicest way possible because you are going to get a job where they can turn you into a character for what they want. I had an audition where somebody came to me, wanted this role. It was for Scream Dream. They wanted the lead role. I said, audition. I mean, I already knew that it was probably going to be a no because they were not what I was looking for. They had green hair. That's a no go already. They had fishnets and leather, and they had so much eye makeup on and fake eyelashes. And I'm sitting here like, you may be used to doing this for a lot of independent filmmakers, but I'm doing this based on what I've learned on how to properly do an audition. And I see it all the time. I've seen multiple people send me that stuff. And it's like, no. Like I'm not gonna hire you. Like you don't look like a blank canvas. You don't look like what I think in my head. That's why it is so important. Perfect example alone to show up at an audition and be a blank canvas for someone. These people aren't even doing that. And then I was like, I see people's reels, people have sent me their reels and stuff. And, I'm not saying like, I haven't been in a big movie. I've been in lots of B films, ones that I laugh at, like I just joke about, but I would never put anything less than in a reel. Like if you know it wasn't a good movie, don't put it in your reel unless it's a really good scene. And I think a lot of these people think, oh, I did this, this, and this is the only screen time I've got. I'm going to put everything in here. No, like, there's a fine line between being proud of something and wanting to take that and elevate it into a career, you know? And what I've done personally is I listen to what people were telling me. Like, Tubi is censoring their movies now, and a lot of people was pushing for nudity in film, and I did not want to push Erin to do all this nudity by herself in the film because I know like Melissa Moore did, I think she did all the nudity in the original Scream Dream, right? And it's like there was a one girl at the beginning And I was like, we had a trans woman do nudity for Scream Dream, but it still takes place in the 80s, and they are not playing a trans woman; they're playing a woman in the film. I want to take away the trans, and I want people to see a woman, just woman. I don't want people to think, oh, not that there's anything wrong with that, but in my eyes and what I see, that's a woman, hands down. So that was what we did. And for every person who, or for everybody who did nudity, there was a man to go with it. So, like, I did full frontal, Aaron did full frontal, Ronnie did a little bit of topless, and so Steve did a little bit as well. He did a little bit of the backside. Jason went full frontal, Debbie went full frontal, Raven went full frontal. We've got, there was just so much. And the reason that we did that, and I told them, I was like, if you're going to expect a woman to do this amount of nudity and be pushing that, then you're going to get it you're going to get a guy for that as well. And it's going to be a long scene. It's going to be where you can't cut it out. You're going to have to either put a little censor over it for your streaming networks or something. Because I don't know if you saw that Brute 76 film,
Yes,
uh,
I haven't seen
where
it. But I know come on.
so there's a glory hole moment where the dick comes through and there's a drill. They drill the dick. I don't know why, but it's on streaming. They have a censor bar over it on the free streaming, but then somebody said that Amazon had it blocked as well. So I don't know. I know that you can see it on the DVD and Blu-ray or whatever, but there's no reason to censor that, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And it's a kill scene. So, but you know, I put that in there because people were livid over Deadly Dealings not having nudity. So I put as much as possible as we could get in there because people expected it, asked for it, and the people who were going to get it before this distributor got it, they were requesting that there be a lot in there. And then with the language, I didn't have any bad language in the film. But then I was like, you know what? You all can improv it and add it in. And we did add some in there. And people started putting in their creativity. They wanted to, the relationship was kind of there, but somebody wanted to switch it with a character. And I was like, that's okay. Like, I like that. I think it's cool. It represents. Let's do it. And to be open to people who bring some creativity, into it. And the sexuality is very much there. And I don't want people to go into it thinking, oh, it's an erotic horror film. It's not. It's very explicit nudity, very graphic nudity. It's gory, it's fun, but I think that's how you really kind of need to go with a lot of films. I think, I get really bored nowadays. Not just from not seeing nudity, but like people tame down their movies and they tend not to do the special effects because they can't afford them, or they don't put the nudity in because they can't afford it. And you don't have to sell yourself too short. You can go a little bit more low budget and still have a really cool movie to present to people. So,
By the way, I want to say a shout out. I had the director and I think even some of the cast members on it, but I haven't stated how great this movie is, and it's like a throwback to older. It's called "Horny Teenagers Must Die." It's on TV. It literally has all the things that we're talking about. I mean, beautiful actresses, even attractive actors, and the sex scenes. They're like the '80s. I mean, it's just like now story wise is little, but the kills are great. The kills are great, and it's a little original. So I would
yeah,
definitely give 20 Teenagers Must Die.
I need to check that out. One movie that I will say that I just feel like is so nostalgic with everything that we went through. today, like talking about actors and stuff. Have you ever seen the Bikini Car Wash Company?
No.
I actually like they just brought it to like Blu-ray. But these movies, if you ever want to go back to a time that's like early 90s, big hair, makeup, scrunchies, and remember the swimsuits were really different in the 90s. They were
Hmm.
like a little bit more explicit. These movies right here, I highly, highly recommend. It's got some people from the horror industry in it. I know Jim Wynorski's in it at one point. Christy DeCanty is in this. She was in, I want to say it was Meatballs 4. So I think like the sex comedy and the horror films, B horror, in my opinion, kind of go together. They're the same thing. Even though one's
Hmm.
comedy, one's horror, you still have the fan base embraces them. So I highly recommend them. These are the VHSs. I don't know why I have them sitting here. I was just thinking about that, but I'm actually selling the VHS. But the I was thinking about that because when you watch the whole movie is just nothing but skin. It's like beyond Skinemax. It's nude scene after nude scene after nude scene. Girls go in the car wash thing and actually get soaked and start getting sudsed up, and it's like it's absolutely over the top ridiculous. But it's a fun comedy. It's fun. If you're gonna do some kind of weird, like Amityville janky ass film. No offense to like, there are some of the good empty. Some of them are good. Some are like, what the fuck? But like, if you're gonna do something like just stupid or funny or comedy, do something like that.
Yeah.
Do something that's
Make it.
over the top. Get
Yes.
like a one
Make it
setting, like a
entertaining.
car wash, or you know, bring that style back. Like there's so much you could do with that. And
Yes.
it's like I'm not saying go make a car wash company, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's a very the story's very slim, but very campy, really funny. It's there. All the characters are there. There's lots of characters actually in it. And they're all gorgeous. And it's like, why not do something like that? Why go out and make these like use people's money like to go crowdfund and deliver a movie that these people are unhappy with, and then you could do something like that and it might make it a little bit better for you, and then that way when you go into your next project you bring in more. And I say that like when I did Deadly Dealings, I brought in $3,700 off Indiegogo. When I did Scream Dream, I had, I hired a person to teach me how to work with algorithm and to really work with that and work with my cast, but also the people who backed me with that. We went up to $20,000, $22,000, 18,000 in 3 days.
Nice.
There's a difference when you put out, even though my film did not have quality, not quality, but not nudity, but it had the quality of the aesthetic, the the color scheme. People knew what I was doing. I had talked to people and they would tell people and they would talk in interviews about me. That let people know that I'm about quality. So I think that's why people gave to my second project. And I think if any filmmaker watches this that's doing these like super low budget films, but you're bringing like 20, $30,000 in from your campaigns, do like take a step back, reevaluate what you're doing, and think about what you're making. You can make something that could put you on the map to do something really great with your career and get not only your career but jumpstart your actor's career. And then it's like they go on to do great stuff, and it's like you can look back and say, "Oh, I worked with them," or they could be like, "Oh, I worked with you," because like everybody can do great things,
Yeah.
but you've got to break out of this like the crap that that a lot of them are. And I don't mean that in a negative way. You know what I mean?
I guess I don't know either.
But I wish I could just yell at people sometimes and be like, "What are you doing?"
I say it all the time, man, and we'll talk about it in the next episode because there's another topic I want to bring up that fall into, and we'll talk about it a little bit in the next episode. But listen, Adam, where can everyone find you, my friend?
Oh, I'm on Facebook. I have two Instagrams, Dreamhouse Nightmare. That is my main Instagram account. And I also have Nightly Slasher, where I post about movies or horror history on Nightly Slasher. But I'm more active on Dreamhouse Nightmare. So,
Also, listen, everyone, you can follow us on Instagram as here at the Horror Room as Horror Room MD. That stands for Maryland, by the way. That's where I'm at, and it's cold and snowy here. But also, please hit that like and subscribe button. I don't say that as much often, but by subscribing to this channel, by hitting that like button, and there's also a new button right down there that's called the hype button. That's for
I bet.
smaller YouTube channels, and that shoots us up into this fucking
Yeah.
stratosphere. So
It
definitely
also
hit
it
all
just
three.
pushes you up in the algorithm. So if you really do
Yes,
like this channel, if you really do like content like this, like even just sharing it, giving a like, you have no idea how far that really goes.
it is absolutely huge for us, and we definitely appreciate it here.
Mhm.
Everyone, thank you for coming to another edition of Horror Talk. I'm Travis Bruce, and that's Adam Freeman. We'll see you next time. Take care.
I